Hi there, Deana Driver here. I want to read a story today from Fun on the Farm 3 by different writers, including myself. This is a story called The Creek and the Culvert by myself and my sister Leanne, and I'll read pieces of it. In the springtime of every year when I was a child, myself, a creek that was fueled by melting snow flowed through a small valley in our farmyard in central Alberta, north of Edmonton. That creek separated the barnyard from the field where the cows grazed. And some years the water level was so high and the creek, or as my dad would say, the crick, was swift and dangerous, and we were repeatedly warned to stay away from it. But we didn't, of course. We played in it, especially in the springtime, because that was the most fun. So I used to hang out in that and just walk through and throw rocks and pick up rocks and just play around with my cousins. And then I used to hide out when it was drier after the springtime and see if I could avoid some farm chores. It wasn't very successful, but I tried. My youngest sister Leanne, many years after I was playing in that culvert, she remembers doing so with one of our young male cousins who lived down the road. They would pick up random leaves and debris and sticks of various sizes and put them in the creek to see how far they would go from one side of the road to the other through the culvert. So they would stand on one side of the culvert while the other person stood on the other side of the gravel road on the other end. And they would throw these things into the water and then yell, "It's in!" and see how long it would take for these pieces of sticks or debris to get to the other side. For many hours, one of them stood on one side of the culvert while the other stood across the road, and then sometimes they'd both stand on the same side of the culvert and they threw things into the water at the same time. Then they both ran up the 8-foot-high ditch, across the gravel road, down to the other side, and just in time to see which stick got through the culvert first, which was sort of a version of Winnie the Pooh sticks, which we've played many times with our children over the years. So Leanne says, we played this game for hours and for many days on end in the springtime when the creek was at its highest, because of course that was when the creek was at its most dangerous and playing in or near it was the most fun. This was very entertaining for us and kept us out of my mother's hair for the day. I'm sure Mom had better things to do than entertain 2 kids on the farm. As long as we showed up for lunch, all was good. So true of farm kids in those days. This racing game went on for years. No one knows how much stuff and sticks we put through that culvert. Sometimes, when the water wasn't running that fast, we walked through it in our good old rubber boots, and we pushed through all the sticks and the other stuff that never made it to the freedom on the other side. There were a great many days when our boots were filled with water and our clothes became very muddy in the process. A few years into this adventurous game, I happened to overhear our uncle, who had stopped by to visit, complaining to our dad. He was saying that he was just in his field and he noticed that there was a lot of water in one of the lower areas, and he didn't know why, because the creek should be taking care of any flooding that might happen due to spring runoffs. He then told Dad that he'd walked along the creek and he noticed a huge pile of sticks that was blocking the flow of the water and flooding that area of the field. Must be stupid beavers, our uncle said. It wasn't until many years later that I realized, Leanne says, this little problem might have been due to our stick racing entertainment. After many days and years of playing, the sticks and debris must have finally made a big enough pile down the line to look like a small beaver's dam. The closest lake to our farm is 3 miles away, so there's no possibility of beavers in that little creek flowing through our farms. Oh well, what our uncle doesn't know won't hurt him, right?